Drew, I want you to define this church buzzword for us. Multiplication. It gets used all the time. What does multiplication mean to you in context of the gospel?
It is taking whatever we have been handed and handing it to others in essentially the same way. In fact, the same young man that I just quoted a moment ago, he was talking about this. Young people need us to actually multiply things into them, which you need a decent process for that. You have to model it, then you need to let them assist while you're doing it, then you watch them and offer them feedback, and then maybe they're launched and ready to go. And it takes lots of reps to do all of that, which always includes failure. It takes time and it goes slow. So particularly when I was asking him about, how do we reach young leaders who are not staff members, who are just among our churches or in our city, people who are far from God but close to us? This is what he was saying. Answer the questions that they're already asking, but do it in a way that equips them to help their friends help their friends answer it. So a young staff member invests in another, but he does so in a way that person could turn around and do the exact same thing, so that person could turn around and do the exact same thing. Not in an impressive, you need me kind of way, but I'm giving you everything you need to do with others what I've done with you. And you're going to give somebody everything they need to do with others what they've done with you. So this is how we think about multiplication, not rapid growth, not the way we think about lots of people being added to the church, or not, movement's another word that has all kinds of definitions that goes with it. But taking the time to equip somebody to actually do the thing that you did with them, with someone else in the same way that you did it with them.
Yeah, the multiplication thing, somehow we've just come to know it almost subconsciously as multiplying of the organization or the institution or the program or the what, fill in the blank. And love you talking about it at that granular level. And so what I wanted to ask you both is, so how should church leaders be thinking differently about multiplication, especially around the idea of relational evangelism? Like, what do these generations need equipped in? How do they need to be equipped to be active in the adventure of relational evangelism in their life to the ends of multiplication, the way you defined it?
I think it's all the same ingredients. It's just not on a staff level. When you start taking simple tools and actually expect people, like actually hand them to people in ways that they can immediately try them and afford them the space to fail, and then reflect quickly and meaningfully in a supportive way, all of a sudden you are starting to plant the seeds of multiplication. So this is what's happening among the young people of our church. We've handed them simple tools like Discovery Bible Study, like 15-second transformation stories that help engage people in conversation about spiritual things. And then actually trained them and continued showing up in their lives, checking in on how they're doing that, building that into our teams. But they're so simple, there's nothing impressive about it that requires the originator of it to be there for the next generation to grow. And so that's why there's a DBS podcast out there with some young people whose names I don't even know. It's why there's a sportsbook filled up over in the corner of town. It's why, because they've been handed something that they actually felt supported to learn how to do, encouraged, and not held accountable, but followed up with to see if they actually used it, and then coached when it didn't go exactly the way they thought it would the first time. These simple things are how that works. And so it's Will Guidara. The way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So the way we've approached young staff is the same way we approach young adults, which is the same way that we equip people to share their faith in meaningful ways and end up in powerful conversations. Aaron, what would you add to that?
Yeah, the other thing I would say is I think as the church at large, we have had, particularly in the American church, such high expectations of what it means to be a quote unquote leader. And so if I'm going to be a small group leader, it's almost unattainable, to be honest, in some spaces. And so I think that's a turnoff, especially to young adults who feel like I could never meet those expectations, or I'm still in process, and it's particularly a turnoff to people who are new followers of Jesus, who are like, I could not possibly meet these expectations. And so
church leaders, you hear it like this in church leaders, I don't know if that person's ready.
Yeah.
Well, when you say that, they're saying it 10 times louder, and we've just taken so much agency away. You're spot on, Aaron. Keep going.
So I would say, who gets to be quote unquote allowed to carry the truth of the gospel forward? Is it only people whoever we is, church leadership, quote unquote, have cleared to be leaders and deemed allowed? Sorry, I'm getting spicy, Doug. But I think this is part of the problem is we have set a ceiling, and then we wonder why we can't find young adults that want to carry it forward because they feel like they can't possibly meet the expectations of the organization. Instead, we have 50 young adults at a sports book doing line dancing and then studying the gospel. And there is not one clear leader. There's a facilitator who sends out a text to let them know what time, but different people lead the discussion, different people chime in, and there is no quote unquote expectation of a leader, but instead each of them sharing the good that they've received with the people around them. And by the way, they are not accountable to the organization for any of that. We're just here to support, and as they need resource or help or whatever, we're happy to offer it.